Thank you, President Jameson, Provost Jackson, the board, the faculty, scholars, fellow honorees, and friends. And most importantly, thank you and an enormous congratulations to the graduates and their families. Class of 2024, give yourself an applause and don't stop until your heart is filled with applause. I'm deeply honored. I'm imagining that you're applauding in your brains at the same time as I speak. I'm deeply honored and humbled to participate at your commencement. Every graduation marks two transitions, a birth and a death. It would be tempting and easy, of course, to begin with the birth. And yes, I will come to that. But perhaps surprisingly, allow me to begin with the latter, with death. By this time, you've probably realized that this is not going to be a typical commencement speech. But parents and graduates, don't worry, this is not a morbid talk, but an uplifting one. It's a talk that I hope that you will remember humbly as you think about your own birth and your rejuvenation. This talk is titled 4 Offerings, 2 statements and 2 questions. But first, some context. I'm a physician scientist, and an oncologist. I see cancer patients, and my goal is to treat and sometimes cure the deadliest of diseases. And despite having a higher degree in overeducation, as the provost pointed out, I fail. I fail often. There's a common trope written into the conventional ethos of medicine that the patient fails the treatment. But for me, the trope is almost always reversed. I fail the patient. What happens at that moment? Here we arrive at the most profound of transitions. And we arrive at a moment that is elemental, ancient, and universal. A moment that we have encountered since the very birth of our species. I have, to state the obvious, not experienced it myself, but I've borne witness to it more than 1,000 times. A 7-year-old girl with advanced leukemia died in a clinical trial last month, her heart fluttering at 300 beats per minute in her last few seconds as she clutched her mother's hand. A young English professor with ovarian cancer who was denied her dream to finish her last book. An elderly man with prostate cancer who had just welcomed a grandchild. In the days before these patients, and many others like them have died, I've asked them if there were things that they would have wanted to do or say in anticipation of that final moment. And of course, the answers have been broad and diverse. Some have wanted to climb mountains, some to read a poem. I heard a fly buzz. Some have wanted to rage against fate. Some have wanted peace and sanctity. But over time, I began to see a pattern, a universality, a convergence. Abstracted, simplified, denuded, stripped of particulars. Every person that I've met at this moment of transition wanted to make 4 offerings, 2 statements and 2 questions. I want to tell you that I love you. I want to tell you that I forgive you. Would you tell me that you love me? Would you give me your forgiveness? 4 offerings. Offerings so important and profound that I must force myself, even as I speak to the most attentive and sympathetic of audiences, to repeat them. I want to tell you that I love you. I want to tell you that I forgive you. Would you tell me that you love me? Would you give me your forgiveness? Love and forgiveness, death and transition. But what, you may ask now, does any of this have to do with graduation? Perhaps you're thinking, oh God, he's brought the wrong papers to the speech. This was the one he wrote for the funeral. But no, since we've already broken the rules of a commencement speech, let's continue to break some more. I want you to perform an exercise. Some of you are sitting next to friends, some with parents, some are together, some are dispersed. Please do this for me. Close your eyes if you'd like. Turn to someone that matters in your life. Turn mentally, turn physically, and say to them, I want to tell you that I love you. I want to tell you that I forgive you. Would you tell me that you love me? Would you grant me your forgiveness? Do this afternoon if you wish to. Do it as you walk out of the stadium, or do it when you're at home, packing your suitcases for the new life that is waiting for you in New York, or Toledo, or Accra, or New Delhi. But do it now, at this moment of transition. Don't wait. For the moment that you're inhabiting, experiencing, encountering also marks a transition, a birth and a death. And here's the crux. This is the lesson that we can learn from dying, that we can also apply to life and to living. Waiting merely delays the inevitable. Do it perhaps when you cross the door, or as you depart for the airport with your overstuffed suitcases, just as you will do it when you await the final crossing, when there's nothing to carry and only a lonely boat to help you cross. And now we move to the other transition, birth. I told you these were 4 offerings, but I could have also described them as 4 responsibilities. You have just completed one of the most mind-broadening educations on the planet at the University of Pennsylvania. I want to offer you profound congratulations on this transition, but I also want to offer you one personal experience that has guided my own life. I'm the child of a refugee. I'm the child of a refugee. In 1946, a few weeks before the partition of India, a transition so gory and blood-stained that it defies words and memory, my grandmother, a young widow then, left what is now Bangladesh with 5 boys and a steel suitcase. She arrived in Calcutta, a nervous, back-broken city on the edge of riots, a city already inflamed, overburdened, ravaged, and spent. She set up a home in a one-room tenement. The 5 children inhabited one room, and she slept in the makeshift kitchen. Scarcity was their only abundance, and there was only one luxury: education. There was no money for food, so there would be money for books. At night, each of the boys got half a piece of white paper and a shared pencil to finish homework. I might note in passing that over the last 5 years, I've written 3 papers that have formed the core for the discovery of 3 new cancer drugs. In each case, the essential idea was scribbled with a pencil on half a sheet of white paper. Years later, when my grandmother came to live with us in Delhi, the steel suitcase that had been ferried across so many cities came with her. But it remained in the back of her closet, sealed shut. No one knew what it contained. No one knew. She would parry questions about it, and it was slowly forgotten. So when she died, we opened the suitcase. And of course, there were some predictable objects, mementos of ardor, memory, and desperation, grabbed and packed in the last minute before a terrifying crossing. Some jewelry, a portrait, letters, an old white shawl pockmarked by moths. But in the midst of all this, wrapped in cloth, were 4 school books. Books? Books? Who drags books across a deadly border and across multiple cities? Some years before she had died, I had asked her what I was to do with the contents of the steel suitcase. And she had said mysteriously, give them back. But the content was so outdated that there was no giving back. It left me mystified. Who would care about a math textbook from the 1940s? In 1986, when I was 16, I walked into the library at Berkeley University. There were shelves upon shelves of books. Einstein, Newton, Rumi, The Lives of a Cell, Frantz Fanon, Baldwin, Dickinson, Monroe. In looking longingly at those overstuffed shelves, from which knowledge might perhaps just slosh out, or truth might slosh out like golden liquid if I just gave the rack a small jolt, I decided that I too would make a transition. I would also pick up a suitcase and migrate, seeking a new life, new truths, new knowledge, and new books. It would be unseemly and frankly desecrating to make any comparison between my grandmother's migration and mine, but in keeping with the family tradition, I too underwent a transition and a rebirth. I came to study abroad, crossing many borders and living in many cities. But it was only after I had finished medical school in my late 20s that I returned to my grandmother's request. Give them back. Stupid, stupid me. It wasn't the books, stupid, with their outdated equations and old school writing. It was the responsibility that comes with transitions and with rebirth. And it was perhaps a reformulation of the 4 offerings. I want to understand how to return love. I want to forgive. I want you to return my love. I want to understand how to accept forgiveness. And that's what comes with your rebirth as graduates. Please, please take this seriously. Believe me, I cannot ignore the tumult of the world around us. You're entering a world where love and forgiveness have become meaningless, outdated platitudes like old textbooks. They're words people have learned to laugh at. Perhaps you are laughing at them too. But I dare you to use these words meaningfully again. Use them, but not as empty cliches. Imbue them with real meaning. Do it your way, whatever your way is. But do it with the real conviction that you are returning love and returning forgiveness at this moment of transition and of rebirth. and of the horrifying, numbing despair around you, dare to return love and forgiveness to an unforgiving and unforgiven world. I'm almost done. It doesn't escape me that I titled my speech The Four Offerings. That word offering. It is operative here, for it implies not just an acceptance at death, but a giving at birth. Do both, and do both of them with the utmost conviction. I wish you the best. And here's my last offering. Please, please, in this season of all seasons, especially in these times, and as we end with offering and giving, please don't forget to vote. Thank you.